So we hope that tonight doesn't simply just is another event for you. We hope that it transforms you. That it makes you want to get up and do something, not just tonight, but next week, and a month from now, and a year from now. Be bold, be transformed, and be courageous. Because that's what life is about. Because when we tell the next generation of kids we stood there and say, hold off refugees from this country, well, where were you? We stood up. We resisted. We said, that's what we're doing here today. That's what World Refugee is about. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's an honor to be here with other clergy, with this community together in South Jersey, to say, yes, we will stand up. Yes, our voices will count. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
And what often happens is that they will present themselves to somebody from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. So this is the global organization that kind of manages the whole refugee program. And they run a lot of those refugee camps that you see in the news where people are living. These are places that are really designed to be temporary places for people, to give them food, to give them shelter, to give them a little bit of basic sanitation. The reality is, in the world that we're living in right now, sometimes people are staying in these refugee camps for years. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The average time that somebody is a refugee right now in history is 17 years. So from the time they flee their homes until the time they are actually in a place where they can start to rebuild a solid life for themselves, 17 years of running and fleeing and being in camps and being in temporary situations. So, about 21 million people the United Nations receives that say, yes, you are refugees, you can't go home right now, we're going to consider you refugees. So then the United Nations says, what do we do with you, right? Can you go home? Can you stay in this country that you're in, or do we need to seek what's called third country resettlement? And that means, do we need to send you somewhere else in the world and get you just away from this context completely in order for you to be safe, in order for you not to likely be killed? And actually, less than 2% of those refugees globally get third country resettlement. And it's not because there aren't lots of people who would qualify, it's just that there's not enough slots. When a refugee is recommended for resettlement to the US, we begin our own process of vetting that person overseas. So the United Nations has already done a process with people before they make that recommendation. The US at that point, once we get involved, it's another 18 to 24 months of vetting overseas that happens for people. The Department of Homeland Security has first and last say over every single refugee that comes to the United States. So they're the first point of entry and the last point of approval. And in between, during those 18 to 24 months, every other federal agency that has intelligence, that has data, FBI, CIA, all of it, have a hand in that vetting process, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services, because there's a whole series of health checks and screenings that they have to do as well. So, in essence, we are overseas in various locations around the planet, hand-picking the people that we want to enter into the country as refugees. Right? So it's a very different situation than what you might see in the news media of, what's happening in Greece, right? Or what's happening in other countries where people are sort of swarming the nation and then they don't know what to do with them. And, so those people are winding up in detention overseas. I want to be really clear. Our process is very, very different. They have gone through an extraordinary amount of overseas vetting in order to get the designation as a refugee to the United States. It's a formal legal category. So once they get here, they are work authorized from the minute their plane lands in the United States. They have a legal status as refugees in the United States. After a year, they can apply for a green card. After 5 years, they can apply for citizenship. Right? So it's a very specific process. So that's the background. So the U.S. refugee program, there are 9 agencies that have contracts with the federal government to do the work of refugee resettlement. And the goal, I won't take you through it, it's very detailed and tedious. I'd be happy to answer questions afterwards if anybody wants more information. But the overall goals of the refugee resettlement program are self-sufficiency and cultural integration, right, as quickly as possible. And it really does move very quickly for them from the moment they arrive. I mean, their heads are spinning, and we're getting them, you know, connected to all kinds of resources as quickly as possible. But, you know, we settle refugees from all over the world. Wherever refugees are coming from, they're coming into Philadelphia, they're coming into New Jersey, you know, every religion, every country, every, you know, tribe, political beliefs. I mean, we definitely resettle people who are on opposite sides of conflicts overseas. I don't care, you know. Their lives are in danger, and we're a safe place for them to be. But one thing I've learned in working with refugees is that, you know, on one hand, they're really impressive, right? Resilient, grit. They've been through an extraordinary amount. They're ready to work hard. They're ready to do what it takes to create their own life, their new life. On the other hand, they're kind of nothing special, right? They're just people, right? They're just people like everyone who's sitting here today who happen to be the wrong, whatever it is, the wrong place on the planet at the wrong moment. And you get them here, and they really are just, I mean, it's silly, right? But I think we tend to either demonize them or idolize them. And refugees really are just people like us, like our ancestors, or our grandparents, or our parents who came here to seek their opportunities for their children, for their grandchildren. And the details are different, but the story is exactly the same, right? And we know that story as Americans, right? We know what that's like. You come here, people treat you terribly by and large, right? You know, they look at you funny, you speak the wrong language, you eat the wrong foods, you dress funny, whatever it is, and you just go on, right? You go to work, you work hard, and your kids and your grandkids, you know, God willing, have a better life than you did. So to me, you know, there's a lot of challenges. The resettlement process is extremely difficult. It's difficult financially, it's difficult emotionally, it's just hard. To me, the biggest challenge is really language, right? Because without language access, it's really hard to make a new life in America. It's hard to get a job, it's hard to make friends, it's hard to integrate into the new culture, it's hard to ask for directions, it's hard to talk to your child's teacher about how they're doing in school. You know, it makes it really hard. But they are gonna make it, you know, and Ami's been working with our education program in the Northeast High School. You know, they are gonna make it. They've been through so much, and they do really become part of the fabric of the society. Those first 6 months, first year, it's pretty tough. But the data bears out that 10 years out, refugees and immigrants have a disproportionately positive effect on the economy. So back to a little bit of data. They exceed the general population in workforce participation by 20%. They open businesses, entrepreneurship at twice the rate of the general population. And after 10 years, only 3% are receiving public benefits of any kind versus 21% in the general population.
Wow.
So they really are net positive contributors without question to our economy. They just need a little help to get on their feet during that first year. And we see that deindustrialized places in the region, places like Erie, places like Lancaster, are seeking out refugees to help their local economies. Not just out of like goodness of their hearts, but it's a serious practical economic decision. And it's working. In Lancaster, there was just a study, over 1,000 manufacturing jobs were preserved in the city of Lancaster because of the presence of refugees and immigrants in that community. So we know that they're here, we know that they're ready to work. There are lots of ways that you can support this. And I would say, you know, think about whether you're interested in kind of direct service. You know, there are ways to support people one-on-one, helping with ESL, that is, you know, English language learning, helping people get jobs. You know, if you're a business owner, hiring refugees is a really great thing. And we have a list on the table there of various volunteer roles. Financial support is also really needed, both directly for the refugees, you know, to help them bridge that gap in the beginning with rent and utilities and technology. I really want to get, you know, refugees laptop computers and internet access, because that opens up all sorts of possibilities for them. But also advocacy, right? So advocacy is another really important way to help, especially at this moment that we're in. So we have these talking points booklets on the table over there, because again, we believe facts matter. Like, have good, real information. I don't know if you know about ResistBot. Do you guys know about ResistBot? This is the easiest, best way to contact your national representative. So if you take out your cell phones and you dial 50409, text, all right, I'll say that again, on your phones, text 50409, and you just write the word resist. So what happens is they will ask you, what's your zip code? Put it in. They'll say, oh, I believe these are US senators and representatives, is that correct? And you'll say yes, and they'll say, what would you like to tell them? And you write whatever you want to say, and you hit send. And it gets nicely formatted as a fax to your senators and your member of Congress, and off it goes. And it could be for anything. The issue of the week is healthcare. But anything that you want to do, ResistBot's really, really a wonderful tool, 50409. So I would encourage you all, you know, it's wonderful to see you here. Be active, be engaged, support refugees and immigrants, stand up for the things that you care about, because we really are making the world that we want to live in right now. This is not a time to be passive. We heard the drums, we heard the shofar, all of that to wake us up, shake off the cobwebs, and take action. Thank you.
So I first, before I forget, just wanted to point out that we do have a table on the left side over here. It's a company called Blue Meets Blue, based out of Chicago. And they basically enlist refugee women to sew by hand scarves and jewelry and accessories, and they create the product. It's a non-for-profit organization that sells the product, and all the profits go back to the refugee women. So I would love for each of you to at least just take a look. We have some informational material as well. And obviously, I'd love for you to buy something if you can. Just to introduce myself, my name is Afia Yunus. I'm an immigration attorney by profession, but an immigration advocate by passion. And so I just first wanted to thank each and every one of you again for coming. I wanted to just say very short, a short piece. Right now we're celebrating Ramadan. Muslims around the world are fasting from sunrise to sunset. And unfortunately, the past 2 days have been really difficult. There have been several attacks on Muslims, particularly, I would be remiss if I don't mention a 17-year-old girl named Nabra, who was brutally murdered 2 days ago in Virginia. And unfortunately, she was leaving the mosque from just completing prayer with her friends. And so right now, you know, today as well as tomorrow, there are interfaith vigils for her. And I feel like the one reason people were able to connect to Nabra so vastly in the United States across the country was because we knew her story. And because we got to know her, and there's a Launch Good campaign for her as well, and hearing about her background, and we all related to her. You know, I was a 17-year-old girl who would leave the mosque in the night after prayer. And, you know, I have kids who do the same thing. And so through that connection, I was able to feel a little bit of her pain and her family's pain. And that brings me to why I'm up here right now, is the story of beautiful Sara Hassoon. She's here from, she's also a refugee here from Syria. Come on. And she wants to share her story. And what I ask of you is to connect, to really dig deep and connect to her story. And it's really that connection that will light the fire under you to actually take action. So, Sara. Thank you.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for the lady who spoke before about the process of resettlement. She really accidentally paved the way for me to speak. I wanted to say at the beginning, Assalamu alaikum, hello and shalom to everyone here. I was invited here today by a friend, the amazing attorney Afia Yunus, to share my story and my family story. My name is Sara Hassoon and I'm from Syria. And although I think that I love privacy, but it shouldn't be private anymore. My story shouldn't be private anymore because it's not just my story, it's every displaced person's story. Well, I'm from Syria, exactly from Damascus, the capital city. And my country, Syria, is used to be a very peaceful country with very peaceful people and beautiful people. And one day, just like out of nowhere, like the war just knocked on our door, and we didn't expect it. So my country, I call it like the land of civilization and culture, is not peaceful anymore. It's beautiful for me, but it's not beautiful anymore for anyone else. It used to be like, it had like a very little history of little conflict. Well, the war of Syria, they call it a civil war, but I say it's a world war, and we all know why, because too many countries are involving in this war, and it's not only the Syrian conflict exactly, because it's too many groups from different backgrounds are involving this war, and God knows why. So my family and I were forced to leave our home. My two brothers, my mother, after 6 months after we have lost all connections with the world for 6 months, and after we were surrounded by both the Syrian army and the rebels for 8 months. They were fighting around us. So sorry, I just have to take like a moment. We were forced to leave our home, and we flew to Egypt, like so many people. Some people went to Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey.
I want to just make a public welcome to Chief Bud Monahan from the Cherry Hill Police Department. It is, you can give a round of applause. In a world that's so polarized today, particularly here in South Jersey, particularly Cherry Hill, Chief Monahan has been a partner with us in many of these issues, particularly the issues that we're dealing with tonight. So thank you for being here, and thank you for continuing to be our partner, making our community safe. With that, I want to invite an amazing couple. Alejandro and Nikki, please come and join me. Come. And they have a story that they will be sharing tonight. This is their story. And it's an honor that in 48 days, they're expecting a child. And we hope and we pray that that child will be healthy and happy, and to have a home here in America that's safe and happy for them, with amazing parents that you guys are. So let's give a warm welcome to them.
Hello, thank you everyone. The first thing I want to say thank you to Ana Medina for inviting me, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you. So I want to share a little bit about my story. I have 25 years old, and when I come here, I had 15 years old. So 8 years later, I get made hair, and I'm so happy. And I don't know, the situation is so different. When I come here, my man is work and get money and back to my country. But God is so great with me, and I'm so lucky guy. I made her. She's my shine. She's my everything. She's my sky. And I'm so happy with that baby. So I get married a few months ago, and we had 3 years in relationship, right? Yeah. So she can say something maybe.
Hello, everyone. We're glad to be here. My name is Mickey. I'm his wife. I was born here. My stepfather is undocumented as well, so I was raised with a Puerto Rican mother and an undocumented stepfather. They both raised me to be very open to what's going on, and I remember being really little. I didn't understand, why can't he work? Why can't he go here? Why is he scared to do this? Stuff like that. So I've been here all my life. I met him a few years ago. We met at a store, and I remember he was always like, "Oh, can I help you?" And I'm like, "No, you can't help me." But I remember he did. I let him help me one time. He did. So we've only been married 3 months. And we're expecting a baby boy in 43 days. And we're excited, and we're just happy to be here.
Thank you.
Much luck and happiness, and we stand with you and with so many others. Thank you guys for sharing your story.